We will now welcome Matthew King.
Okay, hi parents. I might be spoiling some childhood things, so this might be a good time to let them play on your phone or something. When my daughter was 5 years old, she came running into our room, mouth ajar, excited to show us the greatest thing that had ever happened in her short life. Look, Dad, my toe is loose. And that excitement at the new thing quickly turned to impatience. When is it ready to come out is a question that we had to field every day for weeks on end. And that, of course, was bookended by the absolute terror at the thought of having to pull it out when it actually was ready. But the one thing that kept her going through all the ups and downs was the promise of the tooth fairy. You know, of all the absolute nonsense that we just accept as children, the tooth fairy has to be the weirdest, right? We lose a tooth and our parents tell us to put it under our pillow and the tooth fairy will come and take it and give us some money. And we're like, got it, makes perfect sense. A tiny bone that we've been using to chew our food just fell out of our body, and now a fairy is gonna creep into our room during the night, take said bone, and leave us some form of compensation. Zero follow-up questions. Children are primed for this, of course, by Santa Claus, a different mythical being that sneaks into your house at night and leaves you things of value. But at least Santa has a kind of ethical morality to him, like you behave, you get presents. The tooth fairy doesn't care how good you are. They just want the tooth. So finally, my daughter was able to pull the tooth out herself, and I was so proud of how brave she was. But that pride quickly turned to panic, because here's the thing. Every parent knows how they're gonna do Santa. Christmas comes around every year. It's top of mind. It happens on the same day every December. But you haven't thought about the tooth fairy since you were, 10 years old? And now this random Tuesday in March is the day the tooth decides that it's time to figure out this whole fantastical production. The first thing you need to do is figure out how much a tooth is even worth now. When I was a kid, it was a quarter, maybe $1 if your parents / the tooth fairy were doing okay financially. But try telling that to your kid whose friend got $10 for one last week. The tooth economy has an inflation rate that would make the Federal Reserve blush. And who has cash anymore? Should I set my daughter up with a Venmo? Then the question that every child has asked themselves is thrust upon me once more. What exactly does the tooth fairy do with all those teeth? We all receive different answers growing up. Maybe they're using them to build a pearly white castle. Maybe they're using the teeth to craft dainty little necklaces, or even grinding them down to make fairy dust. Each option more disturbing than the last, but also immediately accepted by little tooth shedders who are just excited to have a net worth for the first time in their life. But now I'm the tooth fairy, so what do I do? Anyway, that's how I ended up with a drawer full of teeth. I didn't plan it to come out this way. I'm not a sentimental man. I've thrown away every single thing my kids have ever given me. Not right away, mind you, I'm not a monster, but every Father's Day card or self-portrait or misshapen clay heart finds its way to the trash eventually. It's the thought that counts, not the colorful pieces of garbage stuck together with a glue stick. But when my daughter lost her first tooth, something inside of me shattered. That wasn't just a tooth. It was a little part of that baby that I could hold in my hand. She's growing up at an already unacceptable rate. And now her body is rejecting the last remaining tiny pieces of that baby for what? Grown-up teeth? Absolutely not. So when it came time, I snuck into her room and I carefully slid my hand under her pillow, terrified that I would wake her up and ruin the whole charade before it even began, cursing the fact that the tooth fairy insisted on retrieving the teeth from the most inconvenient place on earth. Finally, I was able to retrieve the lint-sized needle in a haystack and escape undetected, my tooth heist a success. But I had no idea what to do next. So the tooth went in a drawer. I figured I would come up with a plan later. And then the next tooth did, and the next one. Each tooth forgotten, put in its own individual Ziploc baggie until the next tooth showed up. Eventually, I gave up on the idea of a plan entirely, because the teeth were out of sight, out of mind, but not gone. I got to keep a piece of my little girl. The problem with the tooth drawer is that I had 2 more daughters. And you're not going to believe this, but they also began to lose teeth. And at no point in the entire process did I have the foresight to, label the bags of teeth. So now I have dozens of individually bagged teeth belonging to 3 different children just laying around in my drawer. I don't know what to do. I started this collection 8 years ago. Technically, it is a collection, and it's the longest I've ever collected anything. I can't stop now. They just keep coming. The unruly pile of tooth bags is upsetting, but it would feel even weirder to aggregate them all into one big bag of teeth, click-clacking around together in there. I have to throw them away, right? It's the only thing that makes sense. The sentimental value depreciates when you only have a 33% chance of knowing which child the tooth belongs to. And the more there are, the less precious they become. 1 tooth from 1 child is a sweet memory. 50 teeth from 3 children is a waking nightmare. The line between sentimental dad and Ted Bundy is a lot closer than I'm comfortable with at the moment. But throwing them away feels too impersonal. Like, they deserve more than that. A burial at sea might be more appropriately theatrical. I could scatter them into a lake and hear them sink down with a chorus of plip-plops as they go towards their fellow pebbles. Or maybe I could throw them in a fire. Would baby teeth pop the way that popcorn kernels do, the way like they resemble? Or, a combination of the two, a Viking funeral. Hell, I even have some locks of their hair I could throw onto the pyre for good measure. My oldest daughter is a teenager now, and when she lost that last baby tooth, it was a really bittersweet moment. And even though at the time she was well past believing in the tooth fairy, she still put the tooth under her pillow, and it still got replaced with money while she slept. So I've decided that it doesn't really matter what the tooth fairy does with the teeth. They're not his, despite the literal monetary transaction that has taken place. The tooth fairy is just the keeper of the teeth for a time. It's about the journey they were on and the new era of life that their loss heralds. The value the teeth hold is directly proportional to the love and affection he feels for the child that they came from. The tooth fairy takes the teeth to mark time. It's a celebration and an act of love. And isn't that more important than what to do with this drawer full of teeth? Thank you.